1 year ago, I published an interesting effect. It was a demo touch effect to create holographic effects, lenticular effects to be precise, like the ones that you see on the trading cards, such as Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic. You know, where the light hits the surface and it appears to have a dense or a volumetric object behind. So in this video, we're going to go step by step on how to create this. And if you stick enough until the end, you will get a bonus scene. Now, everything you will see in this video, you can get it from my Gumroad, and the link is in the description, so you can get the working files plus the bonus other special files. So let's get into this. Right before starting, let's please not forget to push that notification bell, subscribe the subscribe button, push it as well, and I will really thank you for your support. It's been an amazing 1 year and some months since I published this first tech demo approach, and I've seen there are a lot of people searching for it on my website, and whenever I see statistics, they tend to, orient me on what content I should push next. I know I have a lot of things to do, like for example the Guilty Gear series. It's been on pause for so long, but I've been working for clients' work and doing some commissions, and I've been really busy. As you know, we are going through difficult economic times, so whatever possible for me to do the works, I need to pay bills, and it's obviously important for everyone. But we're here to know how to do the shader, and for that we need an artwork. The first thing I'm going to do is to illustrate the Dark Magician girl. Why? Because, well, everyone knows her. it's very ranked among many of the cards, of the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I mean, I think it's very famous, so I'm doing this again. And yeah, so you can see the shading method that I'm doing here, it's without a line. I don't like to work with lines anymore. I've been watching some tutorials for creating artwork, and I totally like their approach with color and contrast values and almost everything that I use normally in 3D, except that it's my hand and my fingers that are moving to create the effect. Obviously this is stylized, and if you know my channel, I really love stylized animation or characters. And this particular part, I wanted to say something of my own opinion, okay? This is my own opinion. I've seen people that whenever they do draw, they tend to flip the canvas because they mention that the brain sometimes in this way will detect some of the details that you, in your normal painting position, will not be able to localize. I don't know how far a scientific research has been done about that, but I wanted to test how true that was. So I flipped the image over, yes, because obviously if you're watching something, you're gonna watch it as a whole, not as a part. And whosoever that sustains that the brain, the left side of the brain, which is your attitude to paint, or your skills to paint rather, can see through the right side when you flip the canvas. I mean, it's totally bonkers. That's not even scientifically demonstrated. What it is demonstrated is that our left side of the brain is the one that carries on with some of the functions that, color and sound, creativity, expressions, the way you express yourself. Anyway, so I'm playing here with the light, and obviously this is not perfect. I was doing this in a rush. I just want to get this as cleanly as possible, and obviously that it would make sense. If you were following my previous posts on social medias such as Instagram, Twitter, and right now I'm trying TikTok. I'm surely going to upload a video on how you can get on that platform too, because apparently no one can figure out how the algorithm works. But me being a publicist for around 20 years and working for visual studios and other publicity media, I know how things should work for it to be a business model. So I think I'm kind of getting there, and once I get my one or two secret ingredients working, I'll know how to publish that, because I know why the platform failed for most people. Anyways, so we have our artwork ready. Now let's explore what we have on the 3D file. So in the 3D file, we see these four monkey heads, which each one has been assigned a shader, a specific shader, which I created as an override path for the scene. Okay, and you can see different shadings here. This one is a normal shading. This one is the depth material. This one is a pointiness, and this one is an AO shader, just a regular ambient occlusion shader. You can see them down here, but they are, shaders that are contained in the scene as overrides. And this factor right here, for example, controls how far or how close the camera will detect the distance to the object. Okay, so you can drive that. But mostly, you don't need to manipulate any of the parameters that you see here. Everything is set and done, so you can get this result. Okay, this is the normal expected result on a normal pass. Okay, with its own RGB. We need that as a separate file. And probably if you get a normal pass without normalizing, you're gonna get this. This is not what we want. This is not useful for what we need. Okay, so if you're in another software, make sure that you get the first image. And this one is the depth pass, which now in this picture, it's contained as a 32-bit EXR file with the different channels on the red, green, and blue. And now you combine it into an EXR. That will give us the effect of the parallax shading that you're seeing in this part of the video, with the monkey head Suzanne behind the girl. Obviously, this girl is an original character that I drew. That was a year ago. And as you can see right here, we are interested in getting the cavity, the occlusion, obviously, and also combine all of those things into one image. Here's another example. This is another EXR 32-bit image, which I used for my previous example of the image that you saw 1 year ago for that Dutch demo. So, okay, I have the Dark Magician Girl ready, and now I need to 3D model the magic cylinders. Okay, so I'm briefly posting here what I did. The material is not accurate. I just wanted to do something really quick so that I can use it like we saw in the monkey heads, because that cube that contains the one single monkey head, it's the space where you're going to place your object, and then you can render your images accurately, so you can overlay them, or rather connect them into the shader appropriately, and then you will get the expected results. So here I am showing you some of the shading tricks that I did here. I'm using transparency, I'm using the PBR shader, although I'm not using all of the channels, obviously, not roughness, not metalness, but it gets stylized enough. Alright, so we're going to work into this parallax object, the scene generator, and I'm going to name it cylinder. Okay, so just that you get your original file, save, and then save as a secondary name. In that way, you can work and manipulate it and not touch the original one. So why did I name it cylinders? Because here we're going to place the cylinders. And how do we do that? We go to append, we go to the file where we have the cylinder. It opens up like a container where we're going to get little drawers, and in those drawers I'm going to find my object cylinder, my object folder, and inside that object folder is my cylinder. So let's just organize this. Let me switch off these layers, these viewing layers, so nothing gets in the way. And these are filters, so you can see what is being rendered, what is going to appear in the viewport, and what is going to be hidden. So in our case, we have the first cylinder. I'm going to switch the global transformations to local. This is for everyone who's watching this for the first time, and thank you if you are visiting my channel for the very first time. Blender is an amazing tool. I am a Blender Foundation certified trainer, and whatever questions you have about it, I am more than glad to show you how to use this amazing software. So let's continue. So right now I organize these two cylinders by moving them individually and then globally, and now we're going to work with the overrides, over the scene shader overrides. So at shader level, we can put or we can use whatever shader we want. For example, this is a normal shading representation, and in case you don't know how to get the normals, you go to this menu and then you can see the little arrows there. Okay, so you just activate that in edit mode. Now we press tab and then we go back to object mode, and then I'm going to push this button, which is the render button, and then I'm going to show you how this is going to work. So we have these override materials right here, which we're going to use, and we're going to switch for every case and every time we are going to make a new render. So you just click there, they are already set for you. So let's select the first one, the pointiness cavity, and let me just save this. Okay, and as you can see, the shading is different than the rendering. Why? Because the render is being overridden. Okay, so in my case, I'm selecting the normals matte cap, and I push F12, and then I get a render. Now you can also change the camera angle. I'm sorry, the camera lens angle and the distance. It doesn't matter as long as you have everything focused inside the box. Whatever is inside the box, the camera will pick it up correctly. So I'm going to create a new folder where I am going to save each one of the render passes that we are going to override, so that later on we can combine them in Photoshop. So let's go for that part first. I'm going to select my output path, and now I'm going to press render image from the render menu. And sure enough, I'm getting my normalized path. Okay, this is a render normal material. And as you can see, I'm rendering also the box. It is not necessary that you have this box in the render. You can, hide it, but it is just there so it can give you the correct distance to the camera. And that is important. Okay, so I'm going to save this as a cylinder normals PNG inside that folder that we previously created, so that it will enclosure or collect all of the images that we're going to do. So this is my second pass, my second override, the ambient occlusion shader. So I'm going to press F12, and then I'm rendering the ambient occlusion material. It could happen that in your machine this will take like 3 or 4 minutes, I don't know, but I'm going to save this now. Perfect. Now I'm going to switch the next override material for the scene, which is the pointiness cavity. So press F12 again, or render image, and then you will get your render cavity material. If this is the first time you're using Blender, whenever you press render, you will not render the sequence, and it will not save automatically. Whenever you render one frame, it will not render automatically. You will have to go and manually save as image. So I'm switching for the last one, the depth material, and then I'm going to press F12, and it will write the image, and like I mentioned before, you need to manually save it. It will not write it on the disk for you. Only animations get written in the disk. Fantastic. So as you remember, this was our original aim. So here we have the artwork, and the artwork is around 3K. So let's resize our Dark Magician Girl so that we will match the size of the original artwork, so we don't have that much trouble, just replacing it. Which, by the way, I recommend you do the same. So I think it's 2000, yeah, right there, 2716 pixels. Alright, so we have a mask. And what is that? Why is that mask useful for? Because we want to isolate some of the parts that we want this dark magician girl to glow or to glitter, rather. So I'm selecting her eyes, this red gem she has on the arm, and also her belt, her golden belt. So we save that, just pure black and white, because we're going to use this as a factor, as a mask. Remember, whenever we're working at shader level in Blender, whenever you see factor, please associate it with mask, okay? That's how you combine, really, to great stuff on Blender. So right now you're looking at this image, like I mentioned before. This is another example where you can organize first your ambient occlusion, second your cavity, and third your depth path. Okay, that's the exact order we're going to do to create the shader now that we have the 4 images right here. We're not going to include the normal into the creation of the EXR. The normal is good for orienting the light. So the first thing we need to do is to convert these images into a grayscale images. Why? Because what we want to do is to select this grayscale and then paste it directly into the RGB channels. And if the image is in color, it will not pick up that function. So this is a very important step. Of course, you can put pause on the video, go back, and then read through every comment I am doing with the little text boxes here. Alright, so let's switch this to 32 bits because I want this image to be the first channel, which is located in the red channel for the ambient occlusion. That is totally logic. And then I'm going to go back into RGB. So now I have to fill the G and the B channel. So let's select the green channel. Let's switch to the depth. Yeah, green depth. I'm sorry. I think it was pointiness. In either case, I'm going to grab this. And as you can see, the grayscale values do not match. This is because I used an image which has an 8-bit range and I need to change it to 32 bits. Do the same for the pointiness, please, so that you can just copy and paste directly into the channels. So I'm going to copy, and now I'm selecting the green channel and then Ctrl V to paste. Alright? So there it is, it's paste. Now Ctrl A, Ctrl C to copy, then blue channel, Ctrl V to paste it. Perfect. Now I have my pointiness on the blue channel, the green is the depth, and then the red is the ambient occlusion, and this is the result. You should get this funky image with your own objects or your own images. So let's just save this as EXR file. By the way, if you cannot open or you cannot read EXR files, please go to the link in the description where you can get the plugin. It's absolutely free. I think it's called EXR.io, yes. And you can download the plugin for Photoshop. It's right here, you can see it. I just saved the image and now I'm going to open the image to make sure every channel is in its place. So it is. Perfect. The alpha, it's empty, we don't need it. We only need the RGB. Perfect. Now let's go back here into the shader, and now I'm going to plug this EXR image and replace the old one. Okay, this was the old one, this was the new one. You can see it there. So I'm going to replace it. And now we are going to get a distortion. Why? Because the parameters that I have for stacking the layers for the parallax effect are not the same for every image. So right now, on this value, I'm going to set it to 0. Now it's fixed. Now let's replace the artwork. It's very easy, actually. You go here where this artwork tag is. I'm going to be labeling that in a huge frame, so you can see that in your shader node. And of course, you have a mapping node here that will help you to locate correctly your image. And now let's go for the mask, for the glitter mask. So that will occlude what we don't want in the image to be glittery, and then it will allow on the white spaces for anything that we want glittery. Perfect. And you can also move this curve or mute it. If you select a node and press M, it will mute it. That means it will invalidate it or not process it. And as you can see, this is not the result that we wanted. So let's just activate this back. And you can also play with the curve right here. Okay, this is muted and then active. And as you can see, there's a difference, and we can see the glittery parts. In case you play with the curve like this case I'm doing here, it will glitter. Everything will glitter. Why? Because the curve itself is driving the values for the mask. And obviously, if it's not restricted to black and white, but instead it has gray values, you're gonna get some parts glittering in your artwork. Besides that, we have a second layer for glittering, which is right here. Don't worry, it's stacked and it will be ordered correctly in the shader. I will show that in the minutes ahead. So the second image, I don't have it, so I'm going to select the same one. Okay, in that way we can see it. So let's put this back where it belongs, and now you can correctly see that I am getting the second shading effect, which is the blue and green and yellow. Okay, so that's just perfect. Now it's glowing with the glittery effect plus the holo effect. You know, blue, green, yellow, depending on the angle of the light. And you can see it right here. Fantastic. So don't forget, whenever you open your file, you will see it here. You need to click here to see the render. Please pay attention to this part, because some people are new to Blender. And if you're new and don't know where the render is going to be in real time, well, the engine is Eevee. And also you can change the background, the HDRI background right here. If you press here, probably you'll get the compressed image. But if you don't, you just press that folder and then it will navigate to wherever you have your HDRI image to illuminate your scene, your mesh. In our case, we have a plane. That's it. That's everything we have right here. And that's what makes this effect so interesting, because we have only one single plane, just vertices, 4 vertices, that's it. And obviously I have collections to organize this. You can organize them as well, organize your assets as well. And you did see the shader, and that's the way I'm going to be giving it to you. Please read the link below where it's the location for the files, for the working files, the exercise files, so you can get them and download them. So right here, this is the best that I could organize this shader, because I understand there are a lot of parameters, but don't worry, just, you know, get close to them and then they will identify themselves. Think of them as your friends, you know, with ID to get into your party. So this is where you're going to replace the AO, the depth image and all of that. You can see we have 2 images. One is for the normal and one is for the EXR image that we previously generated. So we're going to locate it, and then it will automatically replace it once you navigate to the folder where you generated the images. The parallax shading, it's the color of the shading itself. You know, the monkey head, for example, had a certain color, and right now the cylinders have a certain color. Well, that's for that. So the artwork holo noise, that's for the little glittery parts. And here's a glittery noise color, of course. And here we have the label, replace the artwork. So you can come here and check out 2 masks. I'm placing the 2 masks, although in this example it's the same mask, but you could have an additional mask which you can additionally connect in the last shader, in the last image node. Okay, so nothing fancy. And then you can see the possible combinations. If you only have one, well, you can just, you know, take this and connect it. But if you have 2 different maps, then obviously you're interested in having your own individual connections. And that's perfect. And obviously back here, it's the adjust, rotation, and position. This blue frame right here. You can, you know, adapt it, scale it, rotate it, whatever you need. So that's basically it. We have already covered what this marvelous shader does, and I hope you can, you know, really take advantage of this. I really liked Art Magician Girl. I think it's a good work right there, and it took me around, what would that be, 2 days? Yeah, 2 days to finish her. The first pass and the second pass, well, you already saw that. So I'm going to be saving this render. If you press F12, you're going to get the render resolution like you have it set on your scene parameters. And there you can then save your image. Now let's talk about the bonus file and assets. Thank you so much for sticking into the video up until this point. So what is the surprise? The surprise is something that I revealed on my socials days before, which is a basic anime speed file, a speed asset, okay? How many times have we seen that effect where, you know, what our character gets powered and then we need somehow to get those light rays, you know, going, but we don't know how to arm the expression, or rather the shader for that. Well, if you know my channel, you'll know that I'm a big fan of anime series, so that's what I wanted to do here. And we're going to compose the Dark Magician Girl with these speed lines, or these power lines, however you want to call them. If you want to switch the expression, you can just click there on this parameter, and it's labeled with a driver, and then you can switch around the speed. So let's append that. Let's go to File, Append, let's go to Collections this time, and sure enough, I have my collection there. Like I mentioned before, you can pause the video, because I know I'm talking sometimes very rushy, but if you pause the video, then you can see what I am doing there, because I've placed text boxes everywhere. So let's scale this with the locator that we placed as parent, as general parent of this little circle that we have here, which is the one that is going to be driving the effect by itself. So if you manipulate that null ball, or that empty, okay, then you'll manipulate how far and how tall those lines are. Okay, you can also go to the shader and parameterize them by the mapping node. Alright, so if you press play, now the timeline is going to roll, and then you're going to get your light streaks, or your light speed, or your energy burst. I don't know how, whatever you want to call this. Alright, this is a cool effect, and I wanted to give to you so you can get a magnificent bonus scene with Dark Magician Girl and the cylinders. You know, they are not realistically colored or shaded. I just imagine, you know, if it's a cylinder that always fires back, it somehow should have kind of a barrel thing. So that's why they're modeled that way. Anyways, if you come here to this parameter and you start driving this number, then you will notice that the lines get thicker or they get thinner. And that's what we want if you need, you know, more speed. Also, one of the advantages that you have on this node, you can drive them, you know, by switching the time around. Divided by 30 means basically divided by every second, divided by 60, you know, by the double of speed. Anyways, one of the advantages is that you can come here to the ramp shader, the ramp node, sorry, and change the shader color. And it's magnificent because this way you can match to the original reference of the anime. So there you go, you can see it right there. It's working with Eevee. This is all real time. You just press play and enjoy and record. I don't know, take a picture, send it to your friends. Do whatever you need with this, because this file is something that you are getting because you support my channel, you support my socials, my Patreon. Thank you so very much, and I hope you really like this video as I also have enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, please, and hit the like button. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks.